Hey all, this is Owen Tuboku and...
Your joking jackass of jiggling jokes and merriment.
Yep, and we are coming at you with Jherick's take on the review of Fullmetal Alchemist, the original Season 1. I believe it's episode 21, The Red Glow. Yes, episode 21, The Red Glow. And you guys got my thoughts from the short video that I did, so take it away, Jherick.
Yeah, I'm not even going to lie. The fact that this episode is called The Red Glow, oh man, what a choice. Especially now that we're a day away from Halloween.
Even though I always thought, considering how it would look, I always looked pink myself, but other than that...
Yeah, you know, maybe it's more of a, what's the word, magenta.
Yeah, well...
It's not pink, it's magenta.
I will definitely say, as a quick little side thing, in Brotherhood, they did go out of their way to finally make it more red, just not with the character or way that I care about. Hi, MacGuffin!
Well, it's kind of funny, too, because, I mean, if you know, like, if you've seen the video about the applied Asian color theory regarding, like, the Super Saiyan hair colors, then you would know why Zamasu going Super Saiyan Rosario pink is absolutely hilarious.
Or Rose, yeah.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And then for, like, his fused form to be, like, purple and green, it's like corruption. And then you got royalty. It's like, yeah, I see what you did there, Toriyama. But anyways, yeah, we're talking about a great episode for the spooky season. Because, the worst horror in all of Full... Okay, actually maybe the second worst. No, actually both of them are in this episode now that I think about it.
Yeah, well, honestly, too, and I will be honest with you folks, this is a day that I had time to do the review, and that, I asked him if he had time, and he did, and it just coincided that it is October 30th. I did not plan this out this way.
Yeah, we swear, we're not being contracted by Sam Hain or, someone else. There's no spiritual funny business. Ooh. But anyways, once again, we get to see them digging deeper into the prison to find the, what was it again? The Sector 5 laboratories?
Well, the 5th laboratory, which they were already in. Edward was digging deeper, but Alphonse is still on the outside fighting Barry at this moment.
Yeah, and, shit's about to get real because here comes a new challenger, and, oh god, it's the worst one possible. Yeah, Barry was hell fun and games when he was playing his cutesy-wootsy little mind tricks on Al. But good luck with that shit on a highly trained, dedicated, and very driven psychopathic priest. With an arm that can destroy everything. Hello, Scar. Or as I like to call him, the unofficial son of Iscariot for this show.
Yeah.
Seriously, how badass would that be? Scar in Iscariot.
He would definitely fit the profile, that's for sure.
Oh my god.
I don't know if he'd go as far as Alexander Anderson. I still think Anderson takes the cake, but he'd be pretty damn close.
Oh man, that would be such a fun thing to see. But anyways, yeah, Scar shows up, and yeah, we get a nice moment where Barry is being the wonderful little choppy boy that he is, but I got news for you, Barry. Choppy loses to Boom Boom. Michael Bay trumps your knife work. Yeah, he learns right quick. There's a how did Mr. Popo and DBZ Abridged put it? Remember, what was it? The chain of command or something like that. It's like, yeah, you're a little bit higher in terms of bloodlust than, well, way higher than Al. But Scar don't give no shits. You get in his way of killing Full Metal, it's on. And he basically disintegrates his arm. And I love how even Barry is like, oh, look at that. You only alchemy, but you only use the destruction portion of it.
Actually, he didn't mention that. He's like, how do you have that symbol on your arm? How do you have that? No one should have that. How do you know about that symbol? I'm going to do backflips now.
Yeah, and we get to see that they basically, either they showed him or he was at least observant enough to watch where all the secret little things to set off the explosives and the other traps are.
Yeah.
Because of course they set explosives all over the fucking building to bury the evidence.
Which again, the guards and people knowing that place, knowing how to explode it, was a lot better than. And we will take it back to Brotherhood. I know I said last time probably wouldn't do that, but because we pointed out some of the weirdness of Brotherhood with this one, again, it was more akin to the manga. Having envy and lust just destroy the laboratory because, the Elric brothers got too close.
Yeah, because I mean, honestly, let's be 100% honest. It would be exactly the kind of military move that a military should do to destroy anything that could be, used or learned from by the enemy. Not going to mention names, but somebody left behind a lot of money and equipment in Afghanistan.
Yep. No, you're right, Afghanistan. I'm like, wasn't that somewhere else? I know what you're talking about now. Yeah.
But it's also kind of interesting that, the big secret laboratory they need to find is the 5th laboratory because, again, this kind of goes back to, some of the older translations of the Bible, but also the Gnostic texts and a bunch of other things where 5 is one of the big numbers in sacred numerology, if I remember correctly. I think 5 is like the number of Earth. It's kind of like, I believe it's 5 is Earth. I believe 6 is like the number of in some translations either perfection or hell, and then 7 is like heaven or true. But it's kind of funny, the 5th laboratory, the one seeking to obtain the power of the gods, by basically sacrificing the life and the souls of man to create a MacGuffin to do it. Yeah, is in the 5th laboratory. Again, nice reference to the Demiurge.
Yep.
Which, if you really think about it, is exactly what you would be if you're trying to do this sort of shit.
Well, again, the one thing that I will even say within Brotherhood, what I like that they do, and I guess that could be the main thing of Brotherhood, even though we haven't gotten to the end, is how the Philosopher's Stone is almost like a way of playing God, but you have the 2 figures wanting to play God. You have the good figures, knowingly or not, trying to protect God's kingdom, and then you have, and we're talking Brotherhood now, not the original, and then you have Father wanting to, because again, I've spoiled it in these reviews before, you guys probably know, because it's a good ending, but it's really hokey, and again, I don't care if the Father is a villain, because it's like sort of very cliche, and I'm not trying to, I don't really want to crap on Hiromo Arikawa because she created one of the best modern manga from the early 2000s into still current relevancy today. But the thing is, you have a creature that was created by, not really Hohenheim. Hohenheim, finished him off, but basically you had the people of Xerxes create this creature. This creature's like, what is my purpose? My purpose is now I want to become God. And then why? Because I'm better than God, and he wastes his time with humans. And I'm like, you really went out of your way to do biblical proportions to tell this story, Hiromo Arikawa, but at the same time, when we get deeper in the show, and because of how Father is, and considering in the first season in your manga, look, Confucius, Jesus.
Yeah.
Are you trying to say something?
Well, honestly, allegorically speaking, she kind of botched it up because, Father being born from the darkness and the hubris of Hohenheim is actually kind of something more akin to the what's it called, the shadow of man, the accumulated sins of all of humanity from Jungian psychoanalytics.
The reason why, and I know it's a side tangent we're on right now, but the reason why I point that out from this, but why this episode makes a current point of it, is because, again, I don't mind that she's saying it, but because and this is because, as you guys have heard me say on the show before, I believe I've said it, I've reaffirmed myself as a Christian, and I respect people's opinions, but I'm going to criticize theirs. I can tell that she's not disproving that God doesn't exist, because God exists in the story, but we made up a version of God who isn't real, aka Father, and then I'm like, but God exists, but then you're saying how, we took this person who's a Jesus Christ-like figure and made him up. So I'm like, so are you saying that Jesus is real, or is not real, or there's only God? Because, again, what are you getting at? And then, as you guys know, we've debunked that little political speech with Rizal Hawkeye to Edward multiple times, because, look, you're going to punish everybody who was involved in that war. You guys gonna punish yourself too? Oh, how convenient! You're not. So,
after you punish yourself, then who's going to be left to do the job of reforming the government?
And I know you guys are probably tired of us beating the dead horse, but this is why we're calling it out, because again, I realize there's been other videos calling out Brotherhood or the manga's stuff, and again, I still like it. I do, but when you have this, which, again, I know this all started with me bringing up how MD and Lust destroy the fifth laboratory to hide the evidence because the Elrics were an important sacrifice for Father to obtain his godly immortality. Ha ha ha. Which, again, I know it makes sense for him to have strong alchemists, but I'm like, if you just needed people to do this, you could have just killed everybody in Central, not really needed Roy, the Elrics, anyone else, Izumi Curtis, and because we all know these people are coming into play, but I'm like, this is why I like where it just was the Philosopher's Stone, because in this one it's like, oh look, this is why they're not destroying the whole laboratory, because they have a whole room with glass walls with redefined Philosopher's Stone. Don't want to know how many prisoners and or other people they killed to get this, but
well, and I mean,
it makes sense why they're doing all this chaos around the world, because they probably accumulated this with death after death after death.
Well, and again, if you needed strong alchemists as part of this ritual, why not just get like a bunch of orphan kids, pretend you're going to teach them all this cool alchemy shit so they can become state alchemists and live a more comfortable life, and then sacrifice them, like make it into like one of those kind of like, if any of you have seen Made in Abyss, that one character who like adopts all the orphans, and then he tricks them into falling in love with him like a father, so that he can sacrifice their love to protect himself from the effects of the abyss. Because that's kind of what you have to do. You have to like sacrifice, strong emotional connections and whatnot to protect yourself from that abyss energy. So he does that. He just finds these orphan kids, makes them, tricks them into thinking like he's this loving father figure to where they're willing to die for him. And then when he's going, he's got them like in these tubes, and they're just wasting away to protect them from the effects of the abyss.
Well, and I actually like that idea, Jherick, because what I like about that is it's almost like what they did, what we see in Brotherhood with when they wanted to create a Führer, where they had all these men and people fighting each other. Why not just have, like you said, the best several hundred kids, or let's say he wanted to at least do 1,000 do it, and then they're the main feast, and then everybody else is the rest of the fodder he has to bring into it. That would have made more sense than how he went about it.
Well, you know what? I'm about to trigger the fuck out of the internet real quick. Let me get back.
Oh boy.
Or you could pull a Bleach, like the Banto arc, where they were creating artificial humanoids to experiment on to see if they could create kind of like a fake artificial souls imbued with higher levels of like the Soul King energy. Yeah, some of those filler arcs were actually pretty good. Yes, I said it. Bleach is not as bad as you people think. Give it a chance.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, and yeah. Oh, and where did I get Kenpachi Zaraki Zanpakuto? Only Yachiru knows for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well then, yeah. Getting back to the part that Barry goes the wall, goes in, taunts Scars.
Yeah, he's like, if you want to find out more about that mark, you're gonna have to follow me all the way in.
Mm.
By the way, Barry is just having the time of his life.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is in the rumbling of the explosion, we cut back to Edward and 46 and I believe it was 44.
I
was it 46 and 48?
I think it's number. Well, let's see.
The Slicer Bros.
Yeah, the Slicer Bros. I have it right. Oh, I got that. Oh no, both number 48, older and younger. So okay. both 48.
Well, we cut back to them, and they're mentioning, they're still kind of continuing the whole talk, and the older brother resigns himself to showing Edward further into like what he needs to find.
Yeah, in the fifth laboratory, showing him the secret he wants to know.
Yeah, basically, as he's saying to
No, it's all right. Didn't hit the thing for a while there.
To fulfill to basically fulfill his end of the whatever, the honored debt of honor or whatnot.
Yeah, well, because he was defeated, so they'll show him what it is, and then
it's
please kill me afterwards.
Which again, Bushido code. But anyways, the younger brother is, well, I guess he's going to have to stay there. He kind of did something that really triggered Ed, because again, we kind of mentioned this in the last one. It's like these boys have only known violence, and even they themselves in this conversation point out, even if you could, give us back our bodies, for what good would it do us? We would just be caught and executed again. This is the only life we've ever had. We never really had a chance to be true humans because of this life. And yet you, who have suffered so much, for the first time in our lives, have given us a taste of that one thing we were always denied, and for that we thank you. But the brother's like, even if you could, there was no way we could ever reintegrate to society. We could never be a part of that world. And, I mean, it was really the only way it could have ended. He destroys his blood seal right in front of the brother, and I love how the older one is like, just shut up and watch. This is, again, this is a bit of a reference to a lot of the hardships soldiers suffered on the battlefields of World Wars I and II. Because there were times, God help them, where they knew you're not going to be able to go back. Even if you do, what life would there be for you? In fact, there was once a great Metallica music video where it showed somebody who was in that position. They get blown up by an explosion, they've lost their arms, their legs, they're basically just a torso and a head in a bed, having to have everyone care for them, and the whole video they're just like screaming, "Oh God, kill me," because it's just the worst.
One.
And it's a really painful thing, but when you work in certain types of settings, hospices, post-acute care, fuck you medical community, you really see this shit up close and personal, and it breaks your heart, but it really makes you wonder sometimes if maybe euthanasia is not as cruel of a thing. I mean, most of us don't want to think about it, but when you see that level of just day-to-day pain and suffering, the loneliness, the isolation, it does break you. It really does.
Well, the one thing is why it started too was, I know you said, like, how you mentioned how he wanted to give them back life or maybe do it, but that's what started it, was he didn't want to leave the little brother there, and he looked at the older brother's head. He was going to reattach him. The younger brother didn't want to do it. He sort of got upright. He uses half his body torso with his arms, which are still attached, to get away from him, because he didn't want to go back to being what they were, which was basically stitched together lab rats, essentially.
Well, and again, you can tell, like, the only way they were basically pushing through the horror of this part of their existence was their duty to just, guard this place and kill whoever shows up. Which, again, this is also something that happens to soldiers and warriors, Eventually, sometimes it's the only way you can keep going. Horrifying of a thought as it is, after all you've seen, after all you've suffered, all you can really do is just focus on the work. And sometimes, once that is gone, it's like, again, what happens to the noble knight when there are no dragons left to be slain?
Yeah, well, again, and I understand the point you're getting at, to make sure that, nobody is quote-unquote triggered by what Jherick said. Not only is, like, he's speaking of the euthanasia thing, because you can take it maybe even a little beyond that, saying if someone wanted to live their life and make the choice, because that's the thing, God gave free will, and that's what the other Slicer brother said was, you gave my brother the choice and the will to do this, and he's now made his choice. The thing is, it's almost like keeping someone alive. I'll even go further on a ventilator, where we have the choice to say, if they're brain dead, why are we keeping someone? Because when you're brain dead, or if your heart's like barely functioning, you're not really alive. There's nothing there but a vegetable. And again, it is that person's duty to say, do you want to live with the vegetable, and pay for something that's just laying there that will never be able to communicate or be with you again, or do you want to just give a compassionate thing and just end it. And that's how I look at it too, because there was really no out for the Slicer brothers here.
And it's an interesting,
not a good out anyway.
It's an interesting thing because again, this kind of reminds me of like the moment in Brotherhood where we find out, what's his name killed the Rock Bells, and this is honestly
Scar.
Yeah, and it's honestly kind of an interesting thing because there are times when doctors do have to make that choice, and it is not exactly something easy for them to live with. I give doctors a lot of shit, but when you get put in that position and you have to be the one to make that call, and that happens a lot on the battlefield, by the way. It's not... There's even, going to New Vegas like that, where, there are shortages of medical supplies. They know they're not going to be able to save this person unless they get a fresh supply, and the doctors have to, you show up, it's do you have a high enough medical skill? Do you amputate the legs, or do you hope that you have the medical proficiency necessary to treat the wound and get rid of the gangrenous pus? It's one of those interesting moments where a game actually gives you the option to understand just how hard it is to be in that position. Yeah, you can cut the leg and sever the infection before it moves up. Or do you want to take the risk that you have the medical proficiency necessary to try to treat the wound, hoping that you can save the leg, but knowing that means he'll be out on the battlefield again?
Well, and again, it goes back to what we talked about, I think, within the same episode, where we're seeing a different take, where two soldier or murderous-like characters want to just end it because you gave us a hope of being human again, something we forgot, where we also brought it back to the soldier who, lost his leg during the Ishmaelan War, and Edward, says, well, get automail, your daughter's right, you could walk around, and he's like, well, no, I'm happy to just be alive, I'm happy that even though I don't have a leg, I have my grandson, I have my granddaughter, I have what's left of my family, I have time to sit and reflect, and those days bother me, but I'm here, and I can do things going better forward, and I can give my grandchildren a better life. So once again, God showing free will, and you can get mad at me if I'm putting that way too much in here, but that's what I like about this original too. It's all around there, and it's not truth being weird with a creepy grin for 20. And sorry, Hiromo Oikawa, I know it sounds like I'm busting your metaphorical balls, but every time I think of Brotherhood, I'm like, I can just see how romanticized this is, and it's cool, it's good, but then you have this where, and let's go back to the Slicer Brothers. In this one, we have an epic moment that brought me and Jherick practically to tears over the choice he made and the long-winded thing of keeping us something it shows would be living like a half-life. I'd rather not be living at all. See you later, brother.
Yeah.
I'll be right behind you, brother. And then let's see, Brotherhood, which was also in the manga. I will tell you everything. Lust! Oh, my eyes! My blood seal, which is in my head. Oh, brother, what's happened? Along comes Envy with the Slicer Brother's sword. Stab, 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 stab.
Well, I love the way the younger Slicer Brother says it before he, removes his blood seal, where he's like, forgive me, brother, it looks like I'll be going first.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I'll be going on ahead of you, and I'll be right behind you when I come, brother.
It reminds me of a very interesting song my mom used to love before I moved out, by a group called Death Cab for Cutie, I Will Follow You Into the Dark. If you've never heard it, listen to it. It's beautiful. Haunting, but beautiful. But anyways, so, Edward's going to start walking through the facility, and of course the older brother's mentions him was like, those sound like the
explosions for
No, I mean like the reverberations of the explosions that they packed into this place in case they needed to destroy the evidence.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'd imagine it won't be long. There's a chance those could trigger the other explosives and bring the whole place down.
Yeah.
Which again, another nice touch that they mentioned that the Barry only set off one set of those explosives, but yeah, just the shockwave alone could potentially trigger the others.
Well, again, because if you can't reach the others, you build it in such a way that triggers a chain reaction that does, and there you go.
Which, in the construction business, they call controlled demolitions.
And also, Jherick didn't mention this. I think I did in my short review, but let's just reiterate, too, that Barry, Scar, and Alphonse were not the only ones with this. The prison, which again, remember, is right next door. Not only did we see a cameo of Salt J. Kimbley, who loves it because it reminds him of battle. The prisoners on the inside, the guards on the inside.
I was going to get to that.
Oh, gotcha. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that.
While you did bring that up, don't forget we already know that Alexander Louise Armstrong and God, I keep forgetting her name.
Maria Ross.
Yeah, they're going to be going because they already know the brothers are there. They know Scar's on the loose, and now that at least one of those explosions went off, probably the whole Almestri military is already going to be, coming down on Lab 5.
Well, and I know what people are saying, like, why, since it's like a half-hour show, what is taking the military so long? And I'm like, well, you gotta think, these things are not really taking place probably within a whole half hour. It's maybe episode of that, if you think of it in real time, maybe 10, 15 minutes, maybe 20, 25 minutes, not the whole half hour's passed. But the military is probably mobilizing because the major's probably following protocol and not just going, okay, let's rush there. No, let's get a whole fucking team together, because if Maria Ross is telling me it's true, we've got some crazy shit going on.
Well, not only that, this is Central, so they're going to have to have troops secure important locations. They're going to have to maintain patrol routes. So honestly, it's going to take them a while before they can figure out how many people they can deploy.
Yeah.
It's kind of a military
thing. Not to mention that Scar decimated part of the military guarding the Elrics.
Well, never mind that they're going to have to clean up that mess. So, and also repair the damage they did to the sewer lines in that battle. But anyways, so as they're walking, they get attacked. We see that somebody is what's his name?
You talking about Greed?
Boskron.
Oh, Boskron.
Well, we think it's Boskron, anyways. He's walking through walking through the prison, releasing prisoners. Why? Well, apparently they know they're going to need. You didn't bring enough bodyguards to protect this facility. Let's let loose some serial killers and war criminals. Oh, hello, Evil Trunks, a.k.a. Kimbley. Everybody's favorite Mad Michael Bay.
Yep.
Yeah, and trust me, I think this is actually, again, I know, we like the original better than Brotherhood. The High Heresy, we know. But this introduction of Kimbley was, in my opinion, just so much better, with him locked up. Oh, look how far the Crimson Alchemist has fallen, locked up in this facility. And I love it's like, oh, what lovely sounds. Just like Ishval back in those days.
Reminds me of the sound of battle. Oh, how I miss the crumbling of walls and the sound.
Oh, and just the way the soldiers are just disgusted looking at him. But again, people, remember, we saw Boskron die, so how the fuck is he here releasing Kimbley from prison? Well, I'm sure we all know who's responsible for this lovely little trick. And it's kind of funny because even in prison, you would have to imagine Kimbley would have... don't get me wrong, I'm sure they tried to cover up Boskron's murder. But let's just be honest, this man was an elite state alchemist. He probably knows the real Boskron is dead.
Yeah.
So he's probably aware of who this Boskron is, who's letting him out. And I love that he doesn't say shit about it, because he probably knows, and let's be honest, he probably doesn't care. It's like, you're letting me out to kill people. I don't give a shit if you're not the real deal.
Well, remember, because I know this isn't Brotherhood and it's not the same, but in Brotherhood, Kimbley knew about everything already. So, it's not surprising. And they just had him in prison to protect him, so
And again, even if you operate under the assumption that he's not working with the homunculi in this one, he probably would love their plan to begin with, because, let's be honest, murder, death, explosions, that's right up his alley.
Yep. Well, remember, they even say they don't even go into what he did in Ishval, but the guard says not only was he good in the Ishval War, but he went crazy near the end, and he killed, I think he said, 15 soldiers. So again, he committed war crimes, turning against his own, but again, and that's the one thing I do like in Brotherhood, when we do get the backstory, a bigger backstory of the military with Mace Hughes, who he's a Hawkeye, and Major Armstrong and all the others, is because there's that scene where they're eating lunch, and doing the weapons, and Salt J. Kimbley comes in and basically mocks Weasel Hawkeye because she's getting sick of the sniping and all the killing, and he mocks her for it. He mocks Roy Mustang, and Mace Hughes has to come between them. But again, that scene even just shows how Kimbley's in this just because he loves it. He loves the death and destruction so much, and as long as he can take lives, it's like, I'm surprised he doesn't have on his arm or like that in the notch where it's like, hey, let me just slice another thing in me, or let me put this on my little step thing for another people or persons I've killed. Ha ha ha.
Like going full Victor Zaz.
Pretty much, yeah.
But I mean, again, it shows a difference between a soldier and a warmonger, and Kimbley is most certainly a warmonger.
Yeah, and again, like you said Evil Trunks, because I don't know about Japanese, but he's voiced by Eric Vale in English, who also did Trunks and Dragon Ball. So again, it sounds like Trunks, but it's so much more on the delicious evil pain that, it's like, you can't even believe this is the same Eric Vale who voices Trunks, because you can hear it, but it's just like, god dang, man.
Kind of reminds me of that crazy scientist Dark Elf from Xenoverse 2 Foe.
Oh, yeah.
Which, now that I think about it, with like the round glasses, the psychotic demeanor, the kind of short form Washizaki he has, it's like, I could see him being evil Trunks. But anyways, and it's kind of neat that the soldiers are questioning, why are we releasing all these killers and psychopaths? But again, knowing who we know is on the loose and who they're going to have to fight, it's like, who's really going to suffer here?
Well, and again, to put it in there, the dialogue for it was, the one older guard told the younger guard, well, hey, it's not our duty to question, we just do what we do, we follow rules. But here's the thing, whatever they do over there in Laboratory 5, none of them come back, so you gotta think of it this way. Whether we do the executioning or they do, what does it matter? So it's like...
Well, with that particular line, it's almost like they're referencing the Nuremberg trials, where, as we all know, the biggest defense was, but I was just following orders. It was not my place to question. I was just a soldier. I do what I'm told.
Well,
which is a very common mindset. More than a few people will rationalize their war crimes behind, well, let's be honest, the greater good of the war effort.
Well, and then you go back to Germany and a lot of those other European things, since you mentioned the Nuremberg trials, which did deal with the... and I know, and we're not trying to trigger people with this too, because I know it's a hot topic, but again, I will say it out loud here, not anti-Semitic whatsoever, but it's what the Germans did to the Jews, the Russians did to their own people, Pol Pot in Cambodia, Mao Zedong in China. The thing is, many people knew, they were just afraid to, or they were ignorant of it, and that's what it was too, because people disappeared, you never see them again.
Or to say it in a more anime sense, I suppose if you want a good a representation of this in Gundam, try checking out the manga version of 0079 Blue Destiny. That was a very dark... Well, let's be honest, all the Gundam mangas are pretty dark, just to be fair. But yeah, Blue Destiny had some very fucked up shit that was done in the name of ending the war effort a lot quicker. Exam system. But anyways, so yeah, we see they're walking through Edward and the older Slicer brother 48, who I guess now is the only 48, walking through the facility when they're getting attacked by chimeras. Some very nice, more aggressive military chimeras.
And lizard / dog lion things. It's cool looking, but also creepy.
Well, again, kind of reminds me of some of the mythological beasts of like the Middle East. The Impusas, some of the more interesting lesser sphinxes. But it's kind of neat because Ed does do an admirable job of fighting one off, but it's a pack, and one of them's about to do the pounce and mount attack, but then they just stop and they kind of do like this puppy bowing motion. If you've ever seen like a dog doing kind of like a kneeling before its master in a formal sense sort of thing, and he's like, "What's going on?" It's like, is it me? It's like, no, it's their master. It's like the one who created them. And this is where perhaps we get the true spoopiness, because now we have two of the greatest horrors in all of anime in one episode. Hello, worst daddy ever, aka Chimera Show Tucker. Because, yeah, this is one of my favorite moments because, yes, they said they were going to execute Show Tucker for his crimes. But if you'll remember, in the last episode, numbers 48, 1, and 2 did mention that, they said they were going to execute a lot of us. Instead, they used us for these experiments. Well, Show Tucker may not be the best alchemist, but he's still a step above your average rank-and-file alchemist. And why would they keep him alive and make him an even more powerful chimera form?
Well, remember, he did it to himself.
Well, yeah. Number one, it's like, he's the kind of psychotic asshole who would probably do that sort of shit. And number two, because, yeah, he's not the greatest alchemist out there. I mean, fuck, you got the Edwards, you got the Elrics, you got the Flame Alchemist, you got my boy Alexander Louis Armstrong. But why would they keep Show? Simple. Because he's the kind of asshole who would do anything as long as you allow him to do his experiments.
Well, and
he's not the best, but he is willing to do whatever you ask him to do as long as you give him the option to do some of his own shit.
Well, in which we see he is, because obviously he's trying, but I mean, too little, too late sort of thing. Because this whole thing is, I'm trying to bring back my daughter. I've got 3 of her. Because I couldn't, I turned myself into this dog-bear thing.
I was going to slowly lead into that, but anyways... Before we get into that proper, and frankly, one of the greatest goddamn discussions Edward has had even to this point, we also see another interesting scene where we find out where Greed has been this whole time. Yeah, he's been imprisoned. And because of that explosion, the seal got broken, so now he's loose. And we see him going through the prisons and releasing some of his people. It's like, hey... You want to be stuck in here like dogs, or do you want to be free? I'm only making this offer once, so make your choice and make it snappy.
Which again, don't forget, the seal that broke which was similar to the seal of Scar had on his arm, and that was also in the main alchemic chamber, but it was held together by a skull for some reason.
Which was probably his original skull. Which, again, kind of reminds me of, if you know the lore about how liches are made in Dungeons & Dragons. You know how you have to trap parts of the original body in a canopic jar. And if it gets broken, the connection for the lich gets broken and it dies. So it was a very nice touch. And, as an added bonus, we get to see that a lot of the seals that were in place holding him were the same ones, or similar to the ones we saw in Scar's arm. Which, again, it shows that there's a much deeper connection. And, I forget, is this the one where we see the thing with his brother?
Yes.
Okay, this is something I absolutely have to talk about, because, interestingly enough, we see that Scar was kind of already fighting the Almestrian military. He even had a bit of an assault rifle, which is kind of odd for a monk, but hey, whatever. But what's interesting is we see that his brother was already doing heretical experiments, and Scar was already aware of this. And did you eat something bad again?
No, it could be.
But yeah, his brother, we can see, is clearly, by the amount of blood and gore we see in his little shack, he's clearly trying to do human transmutation. He's trying to do the forbidden art. And what's interesting is we can see that Scar originally had brown hair. Well, I think we all know what caused that hair to go white. Stress and trauma will do that to you.
Yeah.
Not that I know anything about that myself, by the way.
Well, and also as well, on a side note, because I realized when we watched it again through the English version, through the Japanese, the first time he tried to do what you said was the human transmutation, I don't think the war in H-Fall had started yet, so again, it was like his brother was already becoming a pariah because of what he was doing, and then when the war happens, it's like, what the fuck?
Well, and again, he mentions, it's like, this won't work, it won't bring her back, and if you'll remember, we saw a flashback with him, sitting under a tree with a woman who looks an awful lot familiar. gosh, I wonder. Now, what's interesting is as the war is starting and we see, the fighting has made it to Ishval, what happens? He's like, brother, you have to come out. The war is starting. They're coming for us all. And he comes out and he's naked and he's got like all these markings all over his body. He's just looking up at the sky with this crazed look in his eye, and you can tell
while tears are also falling from his face at the same time.
And you can tell clearly he saw too much truth. He saw something his human mind was not meant to handle. It's very reminiscent, if you read Lovecraft, of like people who witness the truth of the cosmic horrors. It's kind of the same, and again, similar to like certain people in the Bible who saw way too much and were overwhelmed by the truth of it all.
Yeah.
Which is exactly kind of what happened, and he's like, oh, it doesn't matter, brother. It won't bring her back. It won't be enough. And he's just wandering into the fire and the explosions, and at this point, Scar's already got the Reed Richards gray on the side of his hair, and he's just, gazing at his brother as he's just walking mindlessly into the fire.
Well, because the thing is, when you sort of see his older brother, I'd say he's probably maybe about like early 20s the first time. Scar looked to maybe be about like 12, 13, and then this one he's got to be like early 20s and whatnot. Yeah. His brother's probably well into his 30s. But the thing is, like he says, like how you were saying, he discovers the truth because, sorry, like, I know I'm behind there, so I don't know if it's coming through, but as I'm petting my dog, he scratched me from behind, but like he says, that because of what this war's doing and what we were trying to do and what they were trying to bring and what we all were bringing, what I discovered is Ishval would have to pay the price. We would all have to die, so it's like,
well, and also
this is where he discovered what it takes to make, you know what?
And I told Boku, like, when he's walking naked in utter madness, I said, this reminds me of the story of, like, what happened when Cain was banished, after he killed Abel. Although, interestingly enough, now, like, after he dies, it's kind of Scar who carries that sin on him, literally, in the form of the arm. And now he is the one marked by the sin of Cain, walking the earth forever, destroying and never being able to grow a bountiful harvest of true reward.
And see, that's the part we still have yet to see is how, because he always said, brother, why did you give me this arm? Because his brother's arm is still attached. He still doesn't have it yet. But at the same time, too, that'll be an interesting episode when we get there to see how that came about. Because... And again, I liked how they did it, and I liked how they did it in the original a bit more. I mean, it was like that, but I mean, in Brotherhood it was cool, but again, it's like, oh, because I'm combining alchemy and alchemy, and then I can combine it. Whoops, I guess that wasn't as good as I thought, but then, hey, I guess to protect my brother. I mean, and don't get me wrong, Scar's brother sacrificing himself to save his older brother was cool, and then because he's still unconscious, okay, I'm going to wake up being a blind rage, and hey, look, rock bells. It's like, am I the only one who actually likes how Roy had to kill her parents by being forced to, and not just blind rage time because, oh look, these people are helping me and all my people, but no, I'm still going to kill you because I'm Estrians.
Well, anyways, after we see that scene, we get to have the talk. Oh my God, Ed absolutely lays into to Tucker, but we can see that Tucker kind of has the same crazed, deranged look in his eye, and Ed has to be able to. I know Ed is picking up on this, but it's funny that Ed doesn't just kill him out of the blind rage, because again, Ed is a bit more of a grounded thinker. Now you can tell he is pissed off like all fuck, but at the same time, to me, it's almost like sometimes like on the battlefield when you've been after like one enemy and you finally track them down, you've hunted them down, you've done all this crazy shit to get this vengeance, and then you see the person they are, just sad, broken, psychotic, deranged. There's like no true humanity left in them. There's no sanity. The fire of what makes a human truly what they are is just gone, and it's like you can't even bring yourself to do it. You just pity them so much. It's like, I can't even look at you. I can't even kill you. I can't even muster the hatred to want this. It's like, I could never hurt you on the level that you have already hurt yourself, and you just walk away. And It's almost similar to that, but at the same time, he knows that if Tucker is still alive, that means, clearly he was allowed to live, and he must be doing something that is, important enough for them to keep this asshole around. So, as angry as he is, he does keep his cool because he knows there's information to be learned. And, as it turns out, his intuition is more than correct, because where did they set this asshole up? Marco's old lab. The Crimson Glow, as was alluded to by the show's title, it is literally the absolute just motherlode of unprocessed material for a Philosopher's Stone. Oh, but that was not the only secret Mr. Tucker hid. Because for what reason would he be willing to do all this dumb shit? Why, I don't know, the ability to create life from nothingness, to transmute it any way you want? Why, with that kind of power, you could fix almost any mistake. Any mistake. And oh, don't look behind the curtain. Please, Dorothy Elric, don't look behind the curtain. There's nothing there, I assure you. Except for 3 Chimera hybrid versions of Nina. And I love how he says, no, you mustn't look behind the curtain. They get embarrassed. They're not ready yet. Yes, he's trying to bring Nina back. And this is just... Again, this is why this is such a hard episode to review. Hell, show in general to review. Because, honestly, who among us, if given that kind of power, would not at the very least feel the temptation to want to undo a mistake? Hell, you could say the entirety of the Fate Stay Night franchise is nothing but historical figures hoping that they can get a holy grail to undo their mistakes, to, wash clean the thing that just haunts the backwaters of their mind all day long. Hell, Saber herself basically admits this in Fate Zero during the Banquet of Kings. And Iskander himself calls her out for it, saying, it's like, she says, but your kingdom fell to the greed and envy, your children slain, your retainers turned on you. Yes, and I would not change that for a second, because to do so would mean to invalidate all the sacrifices, everything that had to be done in order to reach that point. It's like, if that was the will of my people, then so be it, because it means that I did a proper job of making them feel the desire to be a king themselves. A king must laugh louder. He must love longer. He must rage harder. In all things, he must be the extreme, so that the people who serve under him can have the fires of ambition burn within him to be as the king is. That is the path of the king. He who is worthy of the hero's envy. He who leads their way. That is a king. You saved your people, but you did not lead them. And that is a very interesting point. Because Iskander, as greedy as he is, he understood. It's like all kingdoms will inevitably fall and fail. That is just the nature of civilization. No empire lasts forever. And he was at peace with that so long as he filled his people's hearts with the ambition to be as the king is, to be kings themselves. Saber did not understand this, so of course her kingdom fell under tragic circumstances. And Sho is making the exact same dumbass mistake, believing with, this godlike power, I could bring her back, I could make her understand, I could make it all right again. It's like, no, you can't. And honestly, you shouldn't.
Well,
as much as it hurts, living with the pain and the regret, it makes you, understand that you have to change, you have to be better, you can't be reckless, you can't be stupid, you have to reassess, you have to rethink. There's an old quote, it's like, you learn more in defeat than you do in victory. And honestly, that's one of the biggest stories of, one of the biggest principles of the Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, in his early years, was just this unstoppable force. He always won. So he was arrogant. He was stupid. He never learned anything. until the gods sent an assassin at the will of Ishtar to try to kill him. But what happened? That assassin was so powerful that he honestly respected him. He was his one true friend, the golem of clay, Enkidu, the binding chains of heaven. But what happened? Well, Ishtar got jealous. Her assassin plan didn't work. She called upon the gods to kill the golem. And in his death, Gilgamesh finally realized something. He suffered his first true loss, the loss of his friend. The fear of death took hold in his heart. He spent ages trying to find a secret to immortality to subvert death, which he did. He found an herb of immortality. But, again, in his arrogance, he fell asleep, and a serpent ate it. And it was at that moment he finally understood a basic truth. You have to accept your losses. You have to learn to take that on the chin. It helps you to grow and be a better person. Had he done that sooner, perhaps Enkidu would not have had to die. It was honestly a moment of revelation born from perhaps a series of the greatest defeats, all stemming from that one loss. And in that moment, the arrogant and proud Gilgamesh became the wise king of Uruk. It's a very interesting story, and if you do have the book and the time, I highly recommend you check it out. But this is the lesson Show Tucker that refuses to learn, and it's a lesson that, in his own way, Edward is still refusing to learn. He understands the story, he understands the principle, but we all know why he can't turn away from this mistake. But, again, as we will find out later on in this series, no spoilers, don't worry, I'm not going to do that this time, he will have to pay a price, and because he's going to be putting it off, that price is going to be compounded. But that, again, is a story for another time. But, as we see, looking at the lab, the same symbols we saw on Greed's chamber, on Scar's arm, we start to see that everything is coming together, and I love how he pours one of the little spigots and a little droplet of that water comes out, and he's like, this is Dr. Marco's, his lab. This is unprocessed material for a philosopher's stone.
Well, because it's like the same stone that Marco had.
Yeah, and he's like, and Tucker's like, yes. But it would take but no ordinary alchemist would ever be able to process it into a philosopher's stone. And in one of the scariest moments ever, Edward just looks at him and he's like, yeah, but I'm no ordinary alchemist now, am I? Which is his way of saying, now it's kind of implied heavily that, he wants Edward to process it into a philosopher's stone because, yeah, Show Tucker's a greedy, stupid motherfucker, but he's not dumb enough to think he can make a philosopher's stone even if he's got the material. But he knows Edward can. Edward probably knows, yeah, he wants me to make a philosopher's stone so he can try to restore himself and Nina. Both sides are basically, trying to play it up that they're going to help each other out to try to, get what they want. But it's a very interesting game because, honestly, this is the same sort of politics, same sort of, scratch my back, I'll scratch your back politics that led to World Wars I and II. Which, by the way, I mean, when you look at, the devastation, both in terms of culture, history, and otherwise, that was lost when Ishval got basically glassed by the Albestrians, it's the same kind of world-changing losses and world-changing outcomes that we suffered in World Wars I and II.
Wow,
which, for the longest time, were called the wars that changed everything, because they did. And honestly, it's a very interesting episode because, I mean, the Crimson Glow, honestly, again, is like the red fire of ambition, which, by the way, if you're familiar with how the Chinese tend to think, what is red? Well, it's the color of fortune, glory, of good luck. But what else is red? Red is also the color of blood, of war, of anger, of death and regret. And as, again, given how big those tanks of that unprocessed material was, one has to ask themselves, how many people had to die for this miracle liquid? How much misfortune does it take to create a stone of ultimate good fortune? Again, the crimson glow of ambition. Oh, what a blinding light it makes. And with that thought, my good friend Mr. Boku, I believe that leads us to our favorite voice actors.
Yes. Who are yours?
Oh, I hate to have to...
I get up on the bed, but this dog ain't letting me.
I hate to have to do this, but... God damn it, it was Show Tucker.
Chuck Huber, yeah.
Show Tucker stole the goddamn show. This was... And number 2, yeah, it's Kimberly, because, oh my god, is Trunks good when he goes evil.
Yep.
It feels so good to be so bad.
Well, then to give it proper, Tucker's Chuck Huber in English, Makoto Yugai in Japanese, and then where is Kimberly, Eric Vale, Yuji Ueda in Japanese.
And of course, we all know that at number 3 is my number 1 voice actor. Of course, it is Mr. Anti-Bitch Pasta himself, Vic Mignogna.
Yep,
the alchemist of good voice acting.
Yep. Well, again, because he had so much emotion, especially at the start of it. And
just a quiet, reserved anger when he sees Show Tucker, and then that last moment where he's like, yeah, but I'm no ordinary alchemist.
Well, and you can see with the Slicer brother, the younger one, doing what he could to himself, having the Slicers explain their way in the last 2 episodes, that he's playing upon desperation because he finally has what he wants. And you got to admit, Tucker really wove that beautifully to where Edward would fall for that. And again, it shows in the performances. So I agree with you on those things too. I mean, it was really hard for me to tell too, because this whole cast again did a great job for this episode. Nobody really was like less or more or whatnot. I mean, you guys heard what I did. I sort of just went down the list of the great voice actors really quick and all that.
The scream he lets out when the younger one kills him.
Yeah.
I just...
No, it's alright, man.
Now I'm glad I wore the sunglasses and the mask. Yeah, and Oni crying over someone committing suicide. Isn't that just the craziest irony for Halloween?
Well, hey, there you go.
But again, it's like, and as a final aside, if there's one piece of music that kind of, to me, personally encapsulates this episode better than anything else, God bless you, you crazy goddamn Irishman, you two's Walk On. And if any of you know the story of why they originally wrote that, it was not for 9/11. Although it was a great music video they did for that as a tribute. It was actually for 2 of their closest friends. The first female Prime Minister of Argentina, and hey, God bless my Argentinian brothers, you guys made an awesome walking stick for me. And number 2, it was for a friend of theirs who was one of their longtime collaborators. I think he was one of the guys who did the most work helping them out with like the Joshua Tree and Rattle and Hum, a band they called Little Steven. He committed suicide, and Walk On was kind of for both of them. The original music video, by the way, was a bit of a loving tribute both to the original female Prime Minister of Argentina and Little Steven. If you can find it, it is a very hard but beautiful video to watch, and I highly recommend it. The 9/11 one was also quite great. But yeah, it's honestly, to me, the idea of having to learn from the pain of death, to learn from that mistake and to walk on, that is perhaps the greatest encapsulation of what Fullmetal Alchemist is. The pain never heals. But even so, life goes on, and we must walk on with it.
Alright then, with that, this has been the review of Fullmetal Alchemist Season 1, Episode 21, the Red Glow. This is 012 Boku and...
The Gentleman's Jackass.
Right, and we will see you guys again later, alright? See ya.